What if the hardest part of sales is now to met the call or the email, but simply deciding what to do next? Your inbox fills up, your calendar shifts, and somewhere in that chaos sits a lead you meant to contact yesterday. Dynamics 365 Sales Accelerator gives you a guided work list inside Dynamics 365 Sales so your day starts with a clearer focus. Mirko Peters from M365 FM, and this knowledge nugget explains in plain English why sales work can feel scattered and how Sales Accelerator brings order to it. Grab your coffee and let us dive in. Why sales work gets fragmented. Imagine a normal sales morning. You open Outlook and find emails from customers, internal messages, newsletters, meeting invites, and a reply from someone who asked for a proposal last week. Your calendar shows a call in 30 minutes, your phone has a missed call, and then you open a spreadsheet where you track leads that never made it into the CRM. The work is everywhere. You need to remember who asked for a follow-up, who downloaded a brochure, who stopped replying, and who needs a quick answer before a competitor gets there first. And meanwhile, a teammate asks for an update on a deal, while your manager wants the latest forecast. None of those tasks sound difficult on their own, but when you put them all into one day, the real problem becomes deciding what deserves attention first. The old way relies on personal memory, calendar reminders, sticky notes, spreadsheet filters, and a long list of tasks inside a CRM. You might flag an email, promise to call on Friday, add a reminder, and then miss it because an urgent customer issue takes over the afternoon. That does not mean you're careless. It just means the work arrives through too many doors. A customer emails you through Outlook, a colleague mentions a lead in Teams, notes from a call sit in Dynamics 365 Sales, and another contact replies to a marketing email. Each event changes the picture, but you still have to find it, understand it, and decide whether to act AU. And that takes time. Sales teams can lose up to 20% of productive selling time through manual follow-ups and scattered information. Even if your own team loses less, you recognize the pattern. Time disappears while people search, sort, copy notes, and rebuild the story of a customer before every call. The loss is now only admin time. Poor timing can cool down a good lead. Think about two prospects. One replies to your email, visits the pricing page, and asks a short question, while the other has now replied in 3 weeks. If both names sit in the same unfiltered task list, you might contact the quiet prospect first because that task appears near the top. The interested buyer waits out, and that buyer may not wait long. Sales work can look busy even when it is now focused. You can send emails all morning, update records, attend meetings and clear tasks, but still spend too little time with the people who are ready to move forward. Busy does not always mean productive. You also need context before you reach out. If you call a prospect without seeing their last email, you might ask a question they already answered. If you write a follow-up without checking the opportunity, you may use the wrong message or miss a promise another colleague made. Customers notice that, they don't now care which system holds the note. They just expect your company to remember the conversation. So you do not need another tab, another separate tracker, or another daily reminder system. You need one working place that helps you see the right customer, the right task, and the information around it before the next action disappears. What Sales Accelerator actually is. Welcome to another episode of Microsoft Knowledge Nuggets on M365 FM. I'm Mirko Peters, and today we're talking about a feature inside Dynamics 365 Sales called Sales Accelerator. Think of it as a guided workspace that organizes everything a seller needs for the day into one place. Imagine a busy office reception desk. Visitors arrive all day, messages come in, appointments shift around, and the receptionist makes sure the right person gets to the right room at the right time without doing everyone's job for them. That's exactly what Sales Accelerator does for sales reps. It pulls together leads, opportunities, tasks, and suggested actions so you have a clear starting point every morning. Now, let me be clear. This doesn't replace Dynamics 365 Sales. That's still the bigger CRM system where your company stores customer records, sales opportunities, activities, pipeline details, and the full history around a deal. Sales Accelerator sits inside that system with a focused job, helping you move through your day without constantly asking, who should I contact now? And what exactly should I do when I open their record? That might not sound like a huge shift, but it changes how the system feels to use. A CRM can hold thousands of customer records, great for reporting, sure, but you can't work on thousands of records today. You need a practical, manageable list of people and deals that need attention right now, with enough context to take the next step confidently. Sales Accelerator turns that big pool of records into your daily working view. 3 core pieces make this work. First, the up next work list It puts the right leads and opportunities in front of you at the right time. Second, sequences a planned set of follow-up steps so your team doesn't have to rebuild a common sales routine every time a new lead comes in. Third, customer context. Before you pick up the phone or write an email, you can see the record, past activity, related opportunities, and other details that show where the conversation stands. These three pieces work together. The work list points you toward a customer. The sequence gives you a sensible next action. And the customer record gives you the background, so you don't treat a real person like a name on a checklist. From that workspace, you can also act through connected tools like email, Teams, and a phone connection, depending on how your company has set things up. Instead of opening a record, copying an email, switching to another app, then coming back to log the activity, more of the work stays close to the customer record. That saves clicks, sure. But more importantly, it keeps the conversation connected to the customer's history instead of leaving pieces scattered across separate places. Still, Sales Accelerator doesn't run the relationship for you. It can suggest who to contact. It can show the next planned task. It can put useful information in front of you, but it can't hear the tone in a customer's voice, know that a major account needs special care, or decide that an automated-looking email would feel wrong after a difficult support issue. The seller still makes those calls. Think of Sales Accelerator as a guide beside your desk, not a robot taking your chair. It helps you spend less effort finding the work, leaving you more room to do the part only a person can do: listen, respond, and build trust. So where does that guidance appear first each morning? It starts with the Up Next work list. Up Next, deciding who deserves attention. First, Up Next is the daily work list inside Sales Accelerator. When you open it, you see leads and opportunities that actually need attention. Not a giant list of every customer your company has ever contacted. Each item points you toward a specific task: a call, an email, or a follow-up that's due. That changes those first few minutes of your sales day completely. Instead of sorting through your inbox hoping you spot the right message, you start with a list built around active sales work, and the customer information stays close enough to check before you act. How does the list decide what deserves your attention first? It can use predictive scoring, rules set by your company, and recent customer activity. Predictive scoring sounds technical, but the idea is simple. It gives each lead a signal based on patterns in the sales data, helping you spot which leads might be more likely to move forward. It's a signal, not a promise. Imagine two people appear in your work list. Priya opened your recent email, clicked a link, and booked a conversation. Martin filled in a form weeks ago but hasn't replied since. Priya will probably rise higher because her actions suggest she's actively looking. Martin might need a different type of follow-up or less immediate attention. The list helps you notice that difference before your calendar fills up. Your company can also shape the list with its own rules. Maybe a lead needs attention within a set number of hours after submitting a form. Maybe an opportunity near its expected close date needs a review. Maybe a customer reply should pop up quickly, even when the normal follow-up task wasn't due yet. Those rules turn everyday sales habits into something the system can track. Up Next also surfaces overdue work. An overdue call doesn't disappear just because a new task arrived. It stays visible so you can decide whether to complete it, reschedule it, or look at the customer record and understand why it no longer fits. No more relying only on memory. Each item points to the next suggested action, but the useful part isn't just the task itself. Before you call, you can look at the customer's recent activity, earlier interactions, and related opportunities, so you don't start every conversation from zero. A task that reads, "Call Priya," tells you very little by itself. But a task linked to Priya's record can show that she attended a recent meeting, replied with a question about pricing, or already works with another part of your company. That changes the call. You can begin with what the customer actually cares about, instead of opening with a generic introduction that feels like it came from a list. That's where the work list earns its place. It doesn't just put names in order. It brings the decision and the background closer together, so you spend less time searching and more time preparing for the next conversation. Now, Up Next doesn't overrule common sense. Say a large customer calls with a problem, or you promised someone you'd return their call before lunch. That customer may need your attention before the item at the top of the list. A score can read activity patterns, but it can't fully understand a promise you made in a meeting or the relationship history behind a major account. You decide what happens next. Think of Up Next as a helpful assistant who keeps the open work visible and pushes the likely priorities forward. You can follow the suggested order when it fits, then change course when the customer situation calls for it. Knowing who deserves attention solves one big part of the sales day, but you also need a repeatable plan for how that follow-up should happen, especially when your team handles many leads in the same early stages of a sale. That's where sequences come in, and we'll cover those in another episode. For now, the takeaway is simple. Up Next turns a pile of records into a clear, practical list so you can focus on the people who matter today. Sequences, a repeatable plan for follow-up. Choosing the right person to contact only gets you halfway. So what exactly is a sequence? Here's the simplest definition. It's a planned series of sales actions connected to a lead or opportunity inside Dynamics 365 Sales Accelerator. Think of it like a blueprint for follow-up. The blueprint gives you the steps in order, but you still decide where to adjust. The sequence gives the rep a repeatable path, while the rep chooses the words, tone, and sometimes the timing. For instance, the plan might start with an introduction email, prompt a phone call the next day, wait a few days, create a task to check for a reply, and suggest a second email if the customer hasn't responded. Every step has a purpose, and each completed action moves the record forward. Without a shared plan, you get chaos. One rep sends a single email and waits, another calls 3 times in 2 days, and someone else follows up after a week only if they remember. The customer experience changes based on who owns the record, even when the team sells the same service. A sequence gives the team a common starting point. It can include calls, emails, tasks, and wait periods between steps. The wait matters because good follow-up doesn't mean contacting someone every hour. Customers need time to read an email, talk to colleagues, or decide whether a conversation makes sense. Sales leaders can turn proven habits into a shared process. If the team learns that new leads respond better after an email followed by a call, that pattern can become part of a sequence instead of living only in the memory of the most experienced rep. Newer reps don't need to guess from a blank page. They see the next step, complete it, and keep moving. More experienced reps benefit too, because routine follow-up doesn't depend on rebuilding the same plan for every new lead. But a sequence shouldn't turn a rep into a machine. Imagine the sequence tells you to send a standard follow-up email today, but the customer wrote yesterday to explain that their project has paused. Sending that planned message without reading their note would feel careless. You can change the wording, choose a different action, or pause the sequence when it no longer fits. The sequence keeps the process on track, but the rep owns the conversation. Here's a real-world example. A new lead downloads information from your website and enters Dynamics 365 Sales. A sequence connects to that lead. The first step asks you to send an introduction email, which you adapt to the person's role and the topic they showed interest in. The next step may wait until the following day, then the work list prompts a call. Before calling, you see the lead open the email, so you can refer to the topic they asked about and ask whether they found what they needed, instead of pretending this is a cold first contact. If that call leads to interest, the next step might prompt you to arrange a meeting. The sequence didn't write the relationship for you, and it didn't guarantee a sale. It simply stopped the next useful action from getting lost when the day became busy. That consistency also gives managers something practical to review. They can see whether the team follows the process, whether a sequence has too many steps, or whether a certain step creates little response. Then they can improve the sequence based on what the team learns, instead of telling everyone to follow up better, and hoping that means the same thing to each person. Keep sequences simple at first because a long and rigid plan can create more work than it removes. Start with the few actions your team already knows work, then adjust after people have used them with real customers. Also keep in mind that licenses have limits on how many records you can put into sequences each month. Dynamics 365 Sales Enterprise includes up to 1,500 records monthly, while Sales Premium supports unlimited records. If your team handles a high number of leads or opportunities, check which license you have. A plan for tasks helps a lot, but a perfectly timed follow-up can still feel wrong if the rep doesn't understand the person behind the record. Customer context, insights, and connected work. A task tells you what to do, but customer context tells you how to do it without sounding like you've never met the person before. When a lead or opportunity opens in Sales Accelerator, the customer record becomes the file in front of you, letting you check past emails, phone calls, meetings, notes, related opportunities, and the current stage of the sale before you reach out. Instead of asking, "Can you tell me what you're looking for?" you may see that the customer already discussed a specific product, asked for pricing, and planned to speak with their finance team this week. You can pick up from that point because the history sits with the record rather than hiding in someone's mailbox or handwritten notes. Customers shouldn't have to repeat themselves. The customer record also helps when multiple people from your company work with the same account. For example, a colleague spoke to the contact last month, another sales rep opened a related opportunity, or customer support handled an issue only days ago. Those details can change the right next conversation. A rep who sees the full picture can avoid an awkward email that asks for a meeting while the customer waits for help with an existing problem. Instead, the rep can recognize the issue and decide whether to pause, contact the support colleague, or adjust the message. Dynamics 365. Sales can bring email activity and engagement history close to the sales task, so you spend less time searching across separate systems. Depending on your company's setup, you can also connect through email, Teams, and phone tools from the sales workspace. You stay closer to the customer record while you work. For example, you might read a recent email, send a reply, log the call result, and update the opportunity without copying details between several apps. The system keeps the sales activity connected to the person and the deal, which helps the next rep, the manager, or even future you understand what happened. After a busy week, no one remembers every small detail from 15 customer conversations. A clear activity history gives you somewhere reliable to look before you make the next call. Sales guidance can also suggest next actions based on the information in Dynamics 365 Sales. Copilot can help with opportunity summaries and meeting preparation, turning a long history into a shorter view that helps you catch up before a customer conversation. Treat that as preparation, not a replacement for reading. An AI-generated summary can help you spot the main points, but you still need to check it against the actual customer record. If a detail sounds wrong, incomplete, or out of date, the record and the customer conversation should guide your decision. You're responsible for the relationship. Some teams may also use tools called Who Knows Whom and Talking Points. Who Knows Whom can help you spot whether someone in your company already has a connection with a contact, which may lead to a warmer introduction. But don't treat a shared connection like permission to force an introduction. Ask the colleague first. Explain why you want to contact the person and respect the relationship they already have. Talking points can surface interests from customer communications depending on how your organization configures it. Used carefully, it gives you a natural way to start a conversation, but used badly, it can feel invasive or strangely personal. If a customer mentioned a holiday in an email, that doesn't mean you should build a sales pitch around it. Keep personal details professional, relevant, and light. The goal is to understand the person's situation, not prove that software found a fact about them. Sales Accelerator brings information closer to the work, but it doesn't erase the need for care. Good sales reps read the room, respect privacy, and know when a suggestion doesn't fit. Put the work list, the planned follow-up, and the customer history together, and a normal sales day starts to look very different. A day with Sales Accelerator and who it fits. So what's a day with Sales Accelerator actually look like? Let's break it down. Imagine you start Monday with Up Next instead of digging through your inbox trying to figure out where to begin. Your first record shows recent activity and the customer's history. So when you make that call, you already have the right context ready. The next task might be a follow-up email from a sequence. Oh, once you complete it, you just move on without rebuilding your entire day from scratch. Now priorities can shift by lunchtime. Maybe a customer reply or some new activity pushes a different record higher in your work list, so you jump on it while the conversation is still warm. Managers can take your team's proven follow-up habits and turn them into shared sequences, then review whether those steps actually work in real conversations. Who is this really for? Teams juggling lots of leads with repeat follow-up work. If your crew handles hundreds of leads and follows up over and over, this tool fits. But it won't magically fix unclear sales habits or missing customer data. You still need agreement on what good follow-up actually looks like. And don't forget to check your licensing. Sales Enterprise caps monthly records linked to sequences, while Sales Premium gives you unlimited records. The tool won't close a deal for you. It simply stops the next good action from slipping away. Conclusion: the guided sales desk. Think of it as your guided sales desk. Sales Accelerator gives you one daily place to focus, follow up, and understand the customer before you reach out. Subscribe to M365.FM for more knowledge nuggets in plain English, and share this episode with a sales rep who's still running their day from sticky notes and an overflowing inbox.